Hi there. If you're like myself, you are eager to get back to in-person services again here at Our Savior's Lutheran Church. Well, I'm pleased to report that at its last meeting, the OSL Council approved or ratified the pandemic preparedness reopening plan. That plan is a requirement of the Minnesota Department of Health and the CDC so that we can ensure the safety of all of the individuals who attend events at Our Savior's Lutheran. The plan itself came together rather quickly once we decided we wanted to pursue reopening the church to the public once again. A subcommittee of individuals came together and we reviewed CDC guidelines as well as the Minnesota Department of Health guidelines and some guidance from the Southwest Minnesota Synod and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Using all of that, we looked at our own facilities and came up with a plan that we feel is going to ensure the safety and security of individuals who are members of our congregation. And that's really what our ultimate driving force was, is to follow Jesus' commandment to all of us, and that is to be kind to one another and care for one another. And there's no more important thing in terms of that commandment or that mission than to ensure that everybody is safe and feels secure in God's house. And so with that end, we have created a plan, and it's quite involved. I've been tasked with coming up with a short video that walks you through at least some of the highlights of that plan and what you'll go through when you come to church and how it's going to look a little bit different. Because reading through all the details of the plan might be a little laborious for you. While you're certainly encouraged to read through the entire document, in this short video, I'm going to highlight some of the important things, the really important things that I think you need to know. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen with you, and then we're going to actually walk through the plan itself. I've taken the liberty of highlighting certain things in three key areas that I want to lift up for you. General guidelines in the pandemic preparedness plan and how we're going to ensure safety. Second, building and occupancy kinds of issues. And then finally, how church services are going to behave and operate just a little bit differently. First, in the first section, I've highlighted a couple of things. To begin with, it's important that those individuals who are at high risk still know that the CDC and the Minnesota Department of Health is strongly encouraging those individuals to still remain home and not come to in-person services. You are invited to enjoy services virtually as you have over the past several months. We will continue to broadcast our services, stream them live on YouTube and on our Facebook channel. We will still do the conference call for those of you that don't have access to internet or cable and that sort of thing, but please stay home. Also, anyone with compromised immune systems would certainly fall into that category. Anybody, of course, who is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, in order to maintain the safety of the facility itself, should also plan on staying home. Those kinds of symptoms you can certainly read for yourself here in the plan, but very quickly it's things like shortness of breath, a severe cough, certainly a fever, right? And just not feeling well at all. You should stay home. If you are living with somebody who is not feeling well, you should stay home. If you think that you might have come into contact with somebody who might have coronavirus or COVID-19, again, you should stay home. Remember to think about others as you make those kinds of decisions. Another important guideline that you will see reiterated throughout the document is that we will be committed to maintaining social distances of 6 feet. Now, no one's going to run around with a tape measure and call you on this sort of thing. We are all honored to do that, but please try to maintain a distance. Another important point that's in the general guidelines is that the use of face masks or some kind of cloth face covering is strongly encouraged. Remember that you wear a mask not to protect yourself. Most studies show that wearing a mask to protect yourself is really only 10% effective. The reasons why the CDC and the Department of Health recommend masks is because it helps to prevent the spread to other individuals. And being a Christian, it seems to be an important thing for us to care for those other people who are perhaps more susceptible to the virus. We know that coronavirus is something that can be spread asymptomatically. In other words, I can have the disease and not even know I have it, and I talk to someone, or I'm close to someone, or I cough on someone, and I'm spreading it to them. So that's why we wear masks. Certainly, we are not going to require individuals to wear masks. We know it's a personal choice, but I hope that you think very carefully about that and think about others when you make that decision. As we move on, the second area that I want to certainly lift up to you is the information about building occupancy and how we're going to sort of get in and out of the building safely, all right? The CDC requires that we determine the building occupancy, and then the Minnesota Department of Health and the state of Minnesota has put out guidelines for church services. Currently, we're able to operate at 50% capacity, and that means that at our Saviors, we can't exceed 250 individuals in the building, or in the sanctuary rather, at one time. We will come into the sanctuary to make sure that that we don't exceed that number. Now, I know those of you who are watching this, who are regular members of our Saviors, know that we're likely not going to hit that amount. There are probably only about 5 or 6 times a year when we really get over that amount: Christmas, Easter, confirmation services, that sort of thing. So please keep in mind that that's our limit. We're also going to exercise or implement a voluntary system of record keeping so that we have a record of who is in attendance at services. This is just in case an individual who attends one of our services should later develop the coronavirus or COVID-19. If the state of Minnesota does contact tracing on that individual, they want to know everybody who that person was in contact with. And it is conceivable that they would contact our church and ask if we have a list of all the individuals who were present when that person attended church services. As I said, this will be a voluntary practice. If you feel uncomfortable about having your name written down or having your attendance recorded at a church service, you can certainly opt out of this process or this procedure. But please be advised that it is something that could be helpful to the Department of Health when they're trying to do contact tracing. Some parts of our church will be sealed off from the general public, and this is simply to make sure that we don't have to clean and sanitize the entire building when we're opening it to the public. And so you may see tape across stairways of the Sunday school rooms on the second floor of the education wing, for example, do not have to be open to the public, and nobody really needs to wander up there except staff members. And that will reduce the number of times we have to clean those parts of the church. In addition, you will see that we have established separate entrance and exit points. The Minnesota Department of Health encourages individual organizations and institutions to have traffic flow patterns that prevent individuals from coming in close contact with each other, remembering that social distance of 6 feet, or passing each other too closely. And so to that point, we have created a different way you'll get into the church and get out of the church. And if you scroll down in the plan, and I'm going to go really fast, I apologize for going fast, we do have a diagram that shows this traffic flow, and I'll walk you through it very quickly. There will be one way you'll get in and one way you'll get out. The entry into the church is indicated here in yellow, these arrows. You will come in the church from the new addition, right? And the doors to the right-hand side. You will walk up the stairs, or if you need assistance or you need to use the elevator, you can use the elevator at this point and go through to the main level for the sanctuary. Most of us will go up the stairs and we'll follow these yellow arrows through this area. Note there will be a rope that will close you off from getting into what is an exit area, this other half of the new addition. And then when we get into the narthex, you can go into the main doors or into this door to the right, the small door to get to the side aisle to access the main sanctuary. And you can go down the main aisle or any of the side aisles to fill up the sanctuary. Those individuals who arrive first we're asking that you fill up the front of the church. Now, I know this is going to be hard for Lutherans because we love these seats at the back, right? But this is a sacrifice and an adjustment that we're all making communally for the pandemic. We fill from the front to the back because that means that no one has to walk past somebody who is seated in a pew along the aisle to get to their seat. So if you want to sit in the back of the church, let's say that you do have some mobility issues and you really don't want to make that long 100-foot walk all the way to the front of the church. It's okay for you to sit near the back, but please choose a pew where you can sit in the center of the pew rather than right along the aisle. That will prevent you from being in a place where somebody will have to walk within 6 feet of you, all right? So please try to honor that request. But in general, fill from the front to the back. Another thing that you're going to notice, and I'm jumping ahead of myself here, is that your bulletins for the service will actually already be distributed in the pew. They'll be waiting for you there. We won't have ushers handing out bulletins because we're trying to reduce human contact as much as we can. There will be some individuals upon entry who will help you get into the church and out of the church and help you follow those directions. When we exit the church after services are over, we will exit from the back to the front. In other words, those individuals at the back of the church will exit first, and then those individuals at the front of the church will patiently wait until the back rows behind them have been emptied out, and they will proceed out of the church. We will exit out of the center doors at the back of the sanctuary and then take a left in the chapel. If you'd like to exit through the ramp, the outside ramp or exterior ramp, you can go out those doors, or you can proceed straight ahead down the hallway, past the bathroom and the main office, and either go straight out the small exit door at the front of the building, or you can go into the new addition, go down the steps, and exit out the left-hand side doors, or you can use the elevator and get out those doors. So that's how we'll get in and out of the sanctuary for services. Again, this is all to maintain proper social distancing and make sure that people are not necessarily meeting each other going back and forth. When you are in the church, we are encouraging you to avoid congestion and conversation within the church. Rather, we encourage or invite you after services are over to have some of those conversations, but do so out on our beautiful front lawn. There too, exercise social distancing, but we know the risk for transmission of coronavirus is much lower when we're outside. So save those conversations for outside the church. And I know many of you are missing the fellowship of coffee talk and other events at church. Hopefully we can approximate some of that outside after services are over. As I mentioned before, there will be individuals to help guide you. Door attendants may be used to help you get into the doors. This helps reduce the number of people that are in contact with doorknobs, and it means you don't have to touch doorknobs if you don't want to. They will be sanitized frequently and cleaned frequently, certainly in between services. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. Seating in the sanctuary has been planned out, so it will also maintain social distancing, and I alluded to that a little bit before. You will note, I'm going to scroll down to some diagrams at the end of the plan again. This is a seating diagram from the sanctuary. These tan bars are representing pews in the main sanctuary. You'll notice that every other pew has been taped off. It's not being used, and you'll see some tape across them and a little sign indicating that the seating area is closed for social distancing. The seats that are being used, or the pews that are open that you can get into, will have alternating seating on the outside of the pews, like this one, or the inside of the pews, like this one up at the top. So this is the area that you could sit in or should sit in if you have some mobility issues and you really can't make that long trip down the center aisle to the front of the church, or rather need to sit near the back. Then you can make your way into some of this central seating in the middle of the pew. That way you'll be maintaining social distance for those individuals that are walking by in the aisles, all right? I've already mentioned that the sanctuary will be filled from front to back and then emptied from back to front. And we'll simply police ourselves on that, making sure we maintain social distance between one another as we enter and as we exit. Remember too that hand sanitizer will be available throughout the church. Certainly as you enter, when you go into the elevator and off the elevator, and in the sanctuary itself. And so please make use of that when hand washing is not necessarily something that you can do. In terms of the worship service itself, some things that are going to be a little different that you'll notice is that the hymnals have been removed, as well as the seat cushions. The pew cushions have also been removed. This is because these elements are very, very difficult to sanitize and clean. And if we did want to clean them, it would be very, very expensive to do so. And so those have been removed. Also, we know that studies have shown singing is one of the highest risk practices that there is in terms of spreading the coronavirus. And so singing will not be allowed during the worship service. We will, however, have pre-recorded music from previous services that will be played during our worship, just like has been done on the virtual services that we've been doing the past couple of months. So I know that may be hard for many of us to sort of keep our lips from moving and our mouth from singing and making a joyful noise, but we have to certainly maintain that. Similarly, speaking in unison and saying things like the liturgy and prayers also, again, creates more aerosols which spread the coronavirus more than simply sitting and breathing quietly and remaining silent. So speaking out loud and speaking in unison will also not be prohibited. It will not be allowed. It will be prohibited. Individuals who attend are encouraged to speak silently to themselves in their hearts and their minds, those words like the confession and forgiveness and the Lord's Prayer and so forth. We won't do anything like passing collection plates in church. There will be a basket or receptacle for your offering as you leave the sanctuary, and that's where you will place it, and we will remind you about that at the end of the service. There's also a note in here, I didn't highlight it, but we will continue to have a children's sermon, but children won't come forward for it, again, because of social distancing issues. Remember, we're always going to try to minimize social distance. We're going to maximize social distance, and we're going to try to eliminate any person-to-person contact at all. I mentioned already that your bulletins will be waiting for you in the pew, so no need to connect with anybody or have an usher hand it to you. And please note that communion won't be happening, at least for the foreseeable future, until we can devise a means by which we can do that sacrament and return to the Lord's table very safely and very conscientiously. We are having conversations about that, and we have lots of different ideas that are floating around right now, and I'm quite confident we're going to come up with something very soon that will be able to allow us to return to the Lord's table. So anticipate that, certainly, but understand that for now, we will not be doing communion. There are other parts of this plan that you can certainly read for yourself later, governing things like outside groups using the building, as well as staff members and so forth. But I'm not going to go through all that and belabor that with you, because I want to keep this video as short and as brief as I can. What I will close by saying is that if you have questions or you're uncertain about how things are going to work, please reach out, call the church office, and if they can't answer your question, they can put you in touch with me, and I can answer your question, or if I can't answer it, I will come up with an answer. I will reach out to the council and our subcommittee, and we'll come up with a response to it. But please do not feel apprehensive or at any way unease about coming to worship at our Savior's. We are doing it correctly, we're doing it safely, and the first time that we do this, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to seem a little bit odd. It's not going to be church as usual, but we are going to be together. And that's really the thing that we've been craving, the thing that we've been missing so much. So please don't feel anxious if you are uncertain about what's going on, and Don't feel bad if you do the wrong thing or you go the wrong way at some moment or sometime. Nobody's going to judge you, because that's all up to God. He's the only one who can judge. We can just do the best we can, right? To keep each other safe and to care for our brothers and sisters. And that's what this is all about. I look forward to seeing you all in church.